Now, when it comes to Kendrick Lamar, I have to let everybody know, as recently from Cupcake Drake to MTT BTF loving Nicki Crash Out Minaj, the stans are mad at me and don't want you to hear how the king of rap is running circles around their favorites. I gotta ask, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and I am serious, because today, with what we are about to discuss and celebrate, all the losers in the rap world are about to get a lot more mad at us because everyone's gonna have to face the truth today of Kendrick Lamar's latest set of historic 24 hours, as now within the same day this time around, the king of rap didn't just achieve one major moment that is gonna make all of the losers and awful people lingering in hip-hop cry and complain, but there is two massive accomplishments that show that Kendrick has climbed the mountaintop in rap higher than anybody ever has. And we got no time to waste because those stands are coming, so leave a like and subscribe if you have not. And really, if you're a Kendrick Lamar hater, you're not going to want to see this. As with the Kendrick Lamar deniers, that's what I'm going to call them at this point, they are so in denial that they are trying to set up publications near these tour dates to lie on his name, and they're trying to put misleading stuff out there on how many tickets are being moved and what's going on with the venues putting these shows forward. Well, I guess as we are calling that out and we made the stan mob even more mad, make sure to support and leave a like because we're going to need it. As with everyone that we get, more people are going to see how with Kendrick Lamar, first off with the third show that he just played on the third leg of the Grand National Tour, with Kendrick reaching the Estadio River in Argentina, and of course with this show, like always, there was so much on the line, and honestly, you could say that maybe this was the most high-stakes performance of the entire tour yet, as well, between a capacity that fits up to 85,000 people and all of the stands just waiting for Kendrick to mess up. Really, the pressure has never been higher. Well, going into this, Kendrick definitely had a lot to pull off, and as the stadium does fit some of the most people that have ever been able to get into the same building to witness a hip-hop tour live, Kendrick is right there at the top of the ladder for one of the biggest, if not the biggest show we have ever seen in hip-hop history on a tour. And also with this being a venue that no rapper ever played in, and of course, as we have seen throughout this tour and within this leg, a venue where most rappers have been afraid to even show how many people would come out for them. Ultimately, of course, with this, the Drake side and OVO did everything they possibly could to just try and frame this thing as a failure before it even started, because they did not want Kendrick Lamar to have another DMX Woodstock moment at his own tour. And so, being the stands that they are, they tried to shift and change the narrative around what was happening here, which was a sellout show, and there is no way around that. We will look more into it later. And on that very point, for the sellout shows, for the sellout stands who keep getting mad because their artists have sold out on all of their morals and are in the worst places that they can be, it's about to get bad, and not for the winners in rap, but for them. And I say that because with this show, it was unsurprisingly for everybody in reality, which you can join us here, it's great. It was a success for Kendrick Lamar, and what we can see with this entire performance is that look at what you're seeing. This does look like the biggest show yet, and let's just break down the numbers and narratives, which for the stadium, for a soccer match, or when the venue would be using all of its seats as the event would be going 100% on the field, it can fit up to 85,000 people, and that's a fact. But with that said, as this is a concert and there is an open floor plan, which for the shows out here, unlike with the dates in the US, there are less restrictions on how many people can be on the floor, and that has made these shows change to the point where there have been these massive crowds of people all standing up for Kendrick and more hype than ever. And honestly, that's given the groundwork to create a moment that looks like this, as opposed to what was able to be done in the first leg of this tour in comparison. Well, ultimately with this, you end up getting your upper bowl seating to all move down here. So with that, for the stands and liars who are trying to act like they closed down the upper sections for these Kendrick shows because there is not enough demand or anything like that, because they keep trying to act like the guy who has won so much and pulled some of the biggest crowds a rapper ever has for some reason is just going to fall off and have some sort of a show that would be in like the basement that an underground rapper would play at. Well, we are stomping on all the lies here, and this is another one that we just have to address. And it's because in a stadium this big and where you can put that crowd on the floor instead of the upper seats, well, honestly, what am I even talking about this anymore? You can see the screen, everybody wants to be a part of that, and just on this point of always trying to have gotcha moments on parts of the venue where tickets are never even available in the first place, I and other people did call out how this was going to be the only way they tried to take this tour down and really put anything on Kendrick Lamar's otherwise stainless resume. And I mean, we know you're just lying. It's lame and embarrassing, so just stop it. And it does absolutely nothing good for anybody, even in your own stan base, as you are just communicating based on signals of delusions. And so now, after explaining how basic touring and ticket and seating distribution works, because that's the point of where we are at with what the hoops these losers are trying to jump through, we can now exclusively talk about the show. And when you just see the amount of people who are moving for Kendrick Lamar again like it's a prime MJ out there, stop playing with this guy's name, because again, find me a single other rapper who can pull even half of a crowd that looks like this. Because genuinely now, with every date on this tour, with us finding out more how the entire world is moving for Kendrick, and how with each new crowd that we see Kendrick go to expand more of his GNX world too, they just get more excited for him and make these moments more grand and epic. Because really now, when we see this, and this is all happening to Family Ties as Kendrick is dropping a little freestyle, I hope everybody realizes this. In terms of live touring, this is the pinnacle of what hip-hop stardom and being a lyrical gladiator can now be. And honestly, just seeing this, you can't sit here and think anything other than that Kendrick is having an MJ Thriller type run with this GNX tour and era. Just in terms of seeing a hip-hop star get more love than we have ever seen in every single place that they go. And so just to stand in the face of all the lies and fake narratives and do this, it is something that I commend. But beyond the touring for Kendrick, which is just proving night in and night out that he is not just the biggest rapper in the game without a doubt, but that he is bigger than Prime Drake ever was. Speaking of being bigger and more impactful than Prime Drake, something else came out on the same day as Kendrick did this legendary show, which has shown that even compared to the guy who was seen as the biggest hitmaker in rap and the one who always had the biggest records no matter what supposedly, well, even for the hitmaker, number inflator, musical stat patter machine in Drake, well, compared to a guy who, despite the numbers he does, has not updated any of the certifications to find out how many millions of copies that Humble or All the Stars has officially sold, but we know that they are diamond records. And well, even after a little over a year, Not Like Us has already sold over 10 million copies too. Well, even without doing this, for the biggest rapper who also cares the least about any stats, as he has never updated his album or song plaques to try and show off how big and how dominant he really is over the competition. And I think this is just a product of Kendrick not caring to really play or engage in the industry games whatsoever. Still, even with this, Kendrick managed to just get an achievement that if I was any of these rappers right now and I saw that Kendrick got this, I mean, I know a lot of these guys already have, but I would throw in the towel, because there is no way that the guy who is just doing this good and from top tier album making and music creating shows like these, because genuinely this is a stat line that nobody's going to be able to keep up with, and it's honestly just putting everybody else to shame. And so what I am talking about is how Kendrick Lamar just added, I guess, one of the biggest honors you really could have as a rapper when you consider what this means and who you are standing over, and you also think about how Kendrick did this the right way. Which all of this now comes down to the fact that even before he may be able to lap this record again, when he updates the certifications and numbers for Humble, Not Like Us, or All of the Stars, which, just for those if you don't know what I am referring to, in order to receive these plaques and official updates about how much your record has sold, you need to give the RIAA who does this a fee to audit the song's numbers and then certify it within their system. Well, with this, despite Kendrick not doing this for so long, he now has the best-selling rap song of all time with the 17 times platinum record Goosebumps, which of course is a collaboration that he did with none other than Travis Scott back in 2016. And with this, and compared to a guy like the Cupcake Karen and Drake, who does get these certifications updated decently frequently, well, Kendrick and Travis with this have surpassed Drake's God Plan to take over his record, and knowing how much Kendrick's other songs have sold, I just have to say it again, I honestly do think if Humble gets updated, it will be there, and Not Like Us will take this eventually, as it's already diamond and over 10 times platinum, but will slow down. And just seeing the biggest plaque a rapper has ever gotten for a song going to Kendrick Lamar and Travis Scott, it's funny when you think about this and consider so much, like how Drake has worked with Travis and tried to make the biggest moments he can with him, and I guess while Sicko Mode did have the culture in a grip at a point in time, and that did seem like the biggest song out, well, what Kendrick and Travis did together was timeless, and it has lasted them all the way till today, where the record is still growing and finding new audiences everywhere, which when we go back to this idea of hip-hop being more and more of a universal language, a record like Travis and Kendrick did make here is perfect for that. And so, of course, understanding that, when you see how Kendrick and Travis have just had this song and it has slowly crept up to the point it is at today, when you really look and capture the entire race of trying to get the best-selling rap song of all time and see what it has meant, especially in this modern era where rap stars have had a bigger global reach in terms of getting a singular song out there, for Drake, what you notice when you see a song like God's Plan on this list, or even a track like Sicko Mode behind it far down, these songs are the biggest things when they dropped, but they just don't have that same staying power that a lot of other classic rap material does. And while honestly, I think there is a bigger reason why the Drake stuff just comes and goes the way it has in terms of being the biggest thing in 2018, but in 2025, nobody really thinks about those songs despite so many other hits from that era and even before then still being massively relevant. Off that very point, in comparison, I do think Kendrick getting this is so telling to what his name adds to a record and how he knows how to just capture magic like few other rappers have ever been able to, and honestly, few other musicians when you see how big this song now is. And just to look at this in comparison with the tour Kendrick is on now, when you consider that he has now the biggest rap song of all time by the numbers under his belt, and he's not even playing it on the GNX tour, that to me is just so funny and so Kendrick, as it shows how deep his bag and resume really go. Because to not play a record like this and just have it sitting there, it is a sentiment to how good and loved across the entire world the rest of your catalog is, from your biggest songs as a solo artist to, well, your most introspective songs on some of your most acclaimed albums. And so with all of this, just a big congrats to Kendrick for getting this W without even trying and just leveling up at your show. And also congrats to Travis Scott, which now at this point, and speaking of Travis, I want to clear something up here. While I have been critical of Travis Scott in 2025, and after Pusha T dissed him and with the mid-release of Jack Boys 2, I have pretty much had nothing good to say about him all year. What I will say, and this is really for the longtime viewers who think my stance has changed on him, as it used to be more positive and now it seems like I really don't mess with him anymore, and some people want to have their gotcha moment with that and think I only dislike him because Pusha T dissed him or something. I just want to be very clear, which what I will say here is that for Travis Scott, two things can be true. Which is that for what Pusha T called him out for, which is just being a team changer and fake friend, that's true, and I 100% agree with that. And just to go back to my Travis takes at the time and some of my other takes in rap in general, we were in an era where the bar was so low and the culture was just so diluted compared to what it should have been, that some things that were totally not fine, we were just accepting back then, because what else were we gonna do? Listen to other music? Because there was nothing besides For All the Dogs and Utopias and projects like that. But still, with that said, when it comes to my stance on Travis Scott's catalog, with the run of albums from Rodeo to Utopia, I think that is one of the best album runs from any rap star of the last decade or so. And my take on Travis really is in 2025, is that when we look back, and I think this will become more true in time, is that he is one of the worst rappers ever with one of the best discographies from his era. And what I really mean by that is that when you listen to those old Travis albums, they are incredible, but it's not because of Travis's own genius per se. but it's mainly because of the mentorship and guidance of top tier musicians, which you can credit people like Pharrell, T.I., and Mike Dean a little bit to. And standing as the final boss of that more than anybody else, the guy who made Graduation and also made these Travis albums originally for himself, and a lot of it at that, but then didn't want the songs on his record, so he gave them to Trav. Because if we want to break it down, well, from Rodeo, which he executive produced, Utopia, which we heard the reference tracks from, and Astroworld, but really with Utopia, where we saw so many Donda throwaways, and we also can see the credits, and he was all over them. I mean, overall, Utopia is an album that really does put into perspective why Travis Scott's music can be good and he can be a bad rapper, which is that the stuff was made by not a, but the guy who has now fallen so far as a figure, but well, as a musician, we know his stuff has always been top-notch. And so that's my take on Travis, which is that the guy's annoying, he had great music because of another artist who really made his albums for him, to make a long story short. And now as Travis and that guy who made Donda 808s and so many other hip-hop classics are not on good terms and they don't speak, I don't care what he has to do, because just as we saw on Jack Boys 2, he is out of ideas and he is not very good by himself. But now back to King Kendrick Lamar. It's really just a great time to be a rap fan and see this guy win as much as we have. And so as we walk away from one of the biggest shows in hip-hop history and Kendrick getting the plaque for the biggest song ever, in the one going down, there is one artist who sits on that throne and has the crown of rap, and that is the guy who just put 85,000 people in a stadium to sit and gather around the greatest show that you can see in the game right now, and at that, in the future, the very performance and era that people are going to talk about in hip-hop like the modern day Thriller. And with all of this conversation around Kendrick Lamar's winning, let me know, what do you think is a bigger achievement, the show he just made or getting the highest selling rap song of all time as we see it right now with Goosebumps? And well, as we are in a time where Kendrick is about to only win more and a lot of the losers are crashing out, you want to see how Grammy season is around the corner, and with this, Drake is begging to try and stop Kendrick at that show to the Grammys, but with Kendrick, Clips, Tyler, and so many other big name rappers, well, hip-hop is about to turn up there and Drake is never going to look worse. Check out the suggested video.